My name is Claire Whitmore, I'm 32, and I'm standing in the Whitmore Estate's Grand Hall for our annual family conference. Surrounded by relatives draped in designer suits and luxury watches, I feel like a stranger at my own bloodline's gathering. My navy blazer and understated jewelry draw quiet smirks and whispered comments, as if simplicity is a foreign concept here. For 10 years, they mocked my modest life, while I quietly built a fortune they couldn't even fathom. And today, the briefcase in my hand holds more power than their entire show of wealth combined. The Whitmores have been royalty in Hamilton's real estate scene since the 1920s, when my great-grandfather turned a modest inheritance into an empire. By the time my grandmother Margaret took over in the 70s, the Whitmore name was synonymous with prestige across the Northeast. Unlike her flashy siblings, Grandma Margaret believed real wealth should be silent, purposeful, and deeply rooted. My father, her youngest son, inherited her values and a rebellious heart. He fell in love with my mother, a public school teacher with no old money, shaking the family's social foundations. They chose a quiet life in a middle-class neighborhood, far from the marble floors and status games of the Whitmore Circle. My dad worked as an architect, designing homes for people to live in, not pose beside. My mom kept teaching, never chasing designer anything, and together they taught me, money is a tool, not a personality. When I was 15, they died in a car accident returning from a weekend trip, and the world as I knew it collapsed. Grandma Margaret took me in, while my aunts and uncles whispered that I was now the family charity project. During those painful early months, I'd find Grandma in her study, flipping through old ledgers and photo albums by lamplight. Claire, she used to say, this family forgot what wealth is really for. They think it's for being seen. It's not. It's for building something that lasts. She taught me to read real estate trends, recognize undervalued gems, and above all, practice patience. While my cousins flaunted luxury, I learned to invest in silence, watching patterns, learning the cycles. They got convertibles at 16. I got the used Corolla my parents left behind. They vacationed in the Alps. I worked at the campus library and saved every dime. When Grandma died my senior year of college, each grandchild received a modest inheritance. My cousins splurged on beach condos and private chefs. Blake even bought a yacht he rarely used, just to post about it online. I chose to live in a small apartment, quietly reinvesting every cent into overlooked properties in Hamilton's emerging districts. The family conference was originally Grandma's idea, to keep unity and purpose alive. But after she passed, Uncle Charles turned it into a spectacle. Each year became a contest, who gained more assets, who had the flashiest life update, who wore the most exclusive brand. I showed up in budget basics, shared modest updates, and endured their thinly veiled pity. What none of them realized is that by my 28th birthday, I quietly owned 12 residential properties and 3 commercial buildings. All under anonymous LLCs created with Grandma's former lawyer, Mr. Harlan. Last year, I discovered the apartment complex where Blake, Victoria, and 3 other family members lived was quietly being listed for sale. The longtime owner was retiring and wanted a discreet buyer to avoid panicking tenants. With Mr. Harlan's help, I acquired the entire complex for $28 million using one of my holding companies. I kept the ownership hidden, made soft upgrades, and raised rents slightly, still well below market value. Then, just weeks before this year's conference, I heard Uncle Charles plan to propose selling Grandma's mansion. The same home where I'm now standing. The house that raised me after my parents died. The last place that still smells like cinnamon and old paper and the memory of someone who actually believed in me. And the very place where I plan to show them who really carries the Whitmore legacy. I pulled into the circular driveway on Friday afternoon, my decade-old Corolla rumbling quietly between luxury vehicles that gleamed like showroom displays. Brad's latest Maserati took center stage near the steps. Aunt Lillian's pearl white Mercedes, Uncle Charles's black Bentley, Victoria's polished BMW, and Blake's hulking Range Rover all lined the drive like armored status symbols. My Corolla looked like a lost tourist. I turned off the engine, took a deep breath, and smoothed down my navy blazer. Banana Republic clearance rack, nothing flashy, but neatly pressed. The mansion towered over me, its brick Georgian architecture glowing softly in the afternoon sun. 3 stories of columns, antique windows, and decades of whispered history. I climbed the limestone steps slowly, trying to steady the emotion bubbling inside me. This house had once been my refuge. Now it stood as the battlefield. Before I could knock, the front door swung open. Miss Claire. Martha, the housekeeper of over 30 years, pulled me into a warm embrace. She smelled like lemon polish and cinnamon scones, and for the first time all day, I smiled. "You're more and more your grandmother every year," she whispered, holding my arms. "You still give the best greetings, Martha," I said. Her voice dropped. "You should know, Mr. Charles has been here all morning. Met with the family attorney. Rearranged the weekend schedule. Confirmation. The sale was already in motion." Martha carried my weekend bag upstairs to the room I used to live in. It hadn't changed. Pale blue walls, white furniture, the old window seat overlooking Grandma's rose garden. The same bookshelf with my college finance books and the notebook where Grandma first taught me to track the stock market. I ran my fingers across a framed photo of me and my parents at Cape Rose the summer before the crash. A knock at the door pulled me back. Jessica. The one cousin who had never once treated me like an outsider. "Thought I heard you arrive," she said, leaning in the doorway. She was in designer jeans and a soft cashmere sweater that likely cost more than my whole wardrobe, but her eyes held kindness, not critique. "Wanted to give you a heads up," she said, sitting beside me on the bed. "Uncle Charles plans to pitch the mansion sale tomorrow. He's already lining up votes." My stomach turned. "This is our legacy," I whispered. Jessica sighed. "He says it's time to unlock the property's value. Turn it into something modern. Is that why we're here for 3 days instead of 2? She nodded. Property on Saturday. Financials on Sunday. The final vote on Monday. He's bringing in developers. I stared at the floor, my heart pounding. He wasn't just selling a building. He was erasing a legacy. "I'm going to fight this," I said quietly. Jessica touched my hand. "I'll back you. But don't expect them to listen." She checked her watch. Dinner in 20. Victoria's already asked twice if the charity case had arrived. I gave a tight smile. Wouldn't want to disappoint her. After she left, I sat in silence, letting the weight of it all settle. I came here with a plan. But now, the stakes were even higher. Dinner that evening was exactly what I expected. Crystal glasses, gold-edged china, and a performance of family greatness. Charles sat at the head of the table, Grandma's seat, holding court with stories of condo towers and foreign investors. "All units sold before we even broke ground," he bragged, swirling his scotch. Aunt Lillian boasted about her charity gala's 6-figure total, pointedly noting she hadn't seen my name on the donor list. Brad, slick-haired and smug, brought up his new Maserati again. "The waitlist's 9 months. But the Whitmore name opens doors." He looked at me. "What are you driving these days, Claire? Still got that Corolla?" I sipped my water. "Still runs like a dream." Patricia, Charles's wife, offered a sweetly condescending smile. "You know, darling, Charles could mentor you. Show you how to turn your little investments into something more livable." I wanted to laugh. I'd doubled their entire portfolio, but I said nothing. "I'm comfortable with my choices," I said instead. They laughed, toasted, and carried on. Talking about country clubs I'd never set foot in, vacation homes I'd never see, and schools I couldn't afford even if I had kids. But I didn't flinch. Because I knew something they didn't. As they poured wine and polished their reputations, I sat quietly, holding the weight of a truth they'd never dared to guess. They mocked my silence. But soon, they'd learn it was strategy. Not surrender. Saturday morning arrived with golden light cutting through the curtains of my childhood room. I dressed carefully, black slacks, a blue blouse, clean and professional. No logos, no glitter, just clarity. The family conference began at 9 a.m. sharp in the grand drawing room where generations of Whitmores had made decisions over whiskey and whispered legacy. I stepped in and paused. The family portraits were gone. In their place, renderings of luxury condominiums filled the walls. Sleek, soulless towers meant to replace the mansion that had once held every corner of my childhood. Uncle Charles stood near a projector, Italian leather shoes tapping the floor with impatience. My cousins sat in their carefully chosen rows, designer-clad and self-satisfied. And behind them, a row of sharp-suited strangers, developers, no doubt. "Claire, good of you to join us," Charles called, smiling like a politician. "We're just getting started on image and standards." I took a seat next to Jessica. She gave me a look, half apology, half warning. Charles began clicking through slides. "Our family's brand," he said, as though we were a clothing line, "relies on elegance, prestige, and consistency." His gaze lingered on me for a moment too long. The next slide was a gleaming photo of Grandma's mansion. "This property," he said smoothly, "has served us well for 4 generations. But it's time to think bigger." Victoria raised a hand. Her tone was velvet-wrapped steel. "Claire, dear, we all know this house meant a lot to you. But sentimentality can't outweigh a $45 million opportunity." Before I could speak, Blake leaned forward. "Speaking of smart decisions, has anyone seen my new SL Roadster outside?" Laughter. Deflection. They wanted me to disappear into embarrassment. Charles jumped back in, laying out his plan. Sell the mansion. Divide profits by shareholding weight. Build luxury condos. Brochures passed around with glittering images of cold glass towers. No warmth. No soul. Just profit. "The returns will be significant," Charles declared, wrapping up. "Questions before we take a preliminary vote?" I raised my hand. His eyes narrowed. "I think we need to consider what Grandma actually wanted," I said. "She believed in preserving legacy, not cashing it in." He smiled, thin and tight. "Well, Claire, the market has changed. And Elizabeth's vision, while admirable, may no longer be practical." Aunt Lillian laughed lightly. "Darling, you've always been passionate. But with your limited experience, this might not be your arena." I refused to shrink. "I've studied this property and this market. The historical value actually strengthens its worth as a preserved estate." Silence. Then Brad leaned back. "Come on. You rent a tiny apartment downtown. You drive a beater. You really think we'll take real estate advice from you?" Snickers around the room. My cheeks burned, but I kept my voice even. "My housing choices are deliberate." Brad cut in. "Sure they are. Just like my choice to fly private is deliberate. Some of us have options." Charles cleared his throat to redirect. "Let's vote." Jessica and I voted no. Everyone else voted yes. The mansion was as good as gone. As we broke for lunch, I walked alone through the garden, the one Grandma had tended with her bare hands. Every rose bush felt like a secret she left just for me. I sat on the stone bench where she used to read to me, trying not to cry. Jessica found me there. "I'm sorry," she said. "They just don't get it." "It's not just about the house," I said. "It's about the way they've never once asked who I really am." She took my hand. "For what it's worth, I admire you. You live for something real." I smiled weakly, but inside, something was shifting. The part of me that once hoped for approval was finally starting to let go. That evening at dinner, they argued over rooftop gardens versus infinity pools. Imported limestone or Italian marble. They were already designing the replacement for our legacy. And I sat there, quietly, realizing that we didn't just live in different worlds. We believed in different truths. And maybe, that meant I needed to stop playing by their rules altogether. Sunday morning came with a heavy sky and the scent of rain lingering outside my window. It was Inheritance Day. The room had been rearranged again. This time, a long mahogany table ran the length of the drawing room. Each seat bore a leather portfolio embossed with the Whitmore crest. Mine was thinner than the rest. Uncle Charles stood at the head of the table, flanked by his assistant and a stack of papers. "We'll begin with an updated overview of holdings," he said, his voice crisp, as if announcing stock market figures. "Voting weight has been recalculated accordingly." I scanned the spreadsheet. Charles controlled 38% of voting shares. His siblings and children made up most of the rest. My name, Claire Whitmore, sat beside a humble 2%. My officially declared assets and salary as a financial consultant barely registered. Next came a motion to adjust Grandma's will. He claimed it was for efficiency. But I knew it for what it was, a quiet grab for control. He proposed dissolving protective clauses she'd written to ensure balance. They nodded along, barely blinking. I noted every word to bring to Mr. Harlan later. Then the individual reports began. Brad went first. Promotions, bonuses, new vacation home in Aspen. 4 bedrooms, private lift, ski and access, he bragged. Blake followed with news of his upgraded yacht and crypto gains. Victoria highlighted her growing art collection and how her twins got into an elite academy thanks to the Whitmore name. Everyone clapped. Lillian gushed about a Paris flat. Even Taylor, barely present, complained about staffing issues for her 3 homes. When they got to the apartment complex, my apartment complex, they all had complaints. "The lobby renovation is noisy," said Victoria. "They raised the rent," Blake huffed. "No one even knows who owns it now," Brad added. Uncle Charles tapped his pen thoughtfully. "Maybe we can find out. If it's a group, we might persuade them to sell." He glanced at his lawyer. "There are ways. Approvals can be influenced. A little pressure never hurts." The casual entitlement made my blood boil. They were plotting to intimidate a mystery owner, me, into giving up the very property that housed them. My jaw tightened, but I said nothing. My turn came late in the afternoon. I stood, gave a brief, dull summary of minor consulting work. No one asked a question. Charles glanced at his watch. Aunt Lillian cut in. "Claire, dear, have you thought about changing careers? With our name, there's so much more you could do." Brad snorted. "Or marry someone rich. Still a solid strategy." Laughter rippled around the room. It hurt, more than I expected. But I didn't flinch. "I'm satisfied with my path," I said calmly. Charles cleared his throat again. "Let's revisit the assistant's proposal. A modest stipend, for those who may need help maintaining the Whitmore standard." He didn't say my name. He didn't have to. They were planning to make me a charity case. Again. After everything. That night, I locked my door, called Mr. Harlan. "They're changing the will provisions. And they're talking about investigating the apartment complex," I said. His voice was calm. "I've anticipated this. Your structure is airtight. No one can trace it to you." I looked out the window, the garden silver in moonlight. "It's not just about hiding anymore. I want them to know." "Then it's time," he said. "Shall I prepare the full documentation?" "Yes," I said. "All of it." A moment of silence passed between us, then he asked, "Are you ready to let them see what you've built?" "I am," I said, my voice steady now. "They've underestimated me for the last time." And that night, in the same room where Grandma once taught me compound interest, I began organizing my legacy. Monday arrived sharp and clear, as if the sky itself knew what was coming. I dressed with quiet intention, a charcoal suit tailored to fit, not impress. Grandma's pearl necklace fastened around my neck like armor. Red lipstick, simple and bold. Not for beauty. For battle. I entered the library early, placed my leather portfolio at my seat, and stepped out to breathe. At exactly 9 o'clock, I returned. The family was already in formation. Uncle Charles at the head, surrounded by allies, the table gleaming with legal documents. "Good, we're all here," he said. "We'll begin with the mansion sale." He motioned to his assistant, who passed out contracts. Westbrook Development is offering $48 million. We'll finalize today. The room buzzed with greed disguised as business. Based on shareholdings, Charles said, everyone's percentage is detailed in your folders. My share? Less than $1 million. Now, regarding the apartment complex, Jenkins has identified potential pressure points, he continued. Some strategic code reviews. A compliance suggestion. A little discomfort may motivate the owner to negotiate. I stood. I'd like the floor for a moment, I said. He glanced at his watch. Eliza, Claire, we have a tight schedule. This won't take long. I walked to the front, opened my portfolio, and held up a single page. For years, I've listened to assumptions. Whispers. Jokes. And I stayed silent. I scanned their faces, confused, amused, impatient. Yesterday, Uncle Charles showed a chart ranking us by net worth. I'd like to correct that. I handed the document to his assistant. Display this, please. The projector flickered. My net worth appeared on the screen, $73 million. The room fell dead silent. Brad blinked. That can't be right. No mistake, I said. While you were buying toys, I was building. Gasps, murmurs, a few coughs trying to cover disbelief. I handed out copies of my holdings, 15 properties, 3 commercial buildings, and 1 very familiar apartment complex. But you live in that shoebox, Aunt Lillian stammered. By choice, I said. Not necessity. Grandma taught me, wealth is quiet. Real. Purposeful. Uncle Charles's voice tightened. How did you manage this without our connections? By using Grandma's principles, I said. She taught me how to grow value, not flash it. Then I pulled out one more document. The title deed to the apartment complex. I walked it directly to Victoria. You've been living in my building, I said softly. More silence. Brad turned red. Blake dropped his pen. Victoria looked like she might faint. And those rent hikes? Those renovations? They were mine, I added. You're all my tenants. Uncle Charles scrambled for control. This doesn't change the voting structure. Actually, I interrupted, placing the last document on the table, it does. Meet Elizabeth's Legacy Trust. Earlier this morning, I transferred all my assets into it. And it purchased Jenkins Development. Shock rippled. I continued. Which owns 30% of Whitmore Holdings. Combined with my 2%, I now control 35%. Enough to block the mansion sale. The room cracked into chaos. Jessica began clapping, slow and proud. Well played, cousin. Brad stood, sputtering. This is a trick. You've never contributed to the family business, I met his gaze. I've protected it. From people who forgot what legacy means. I returned to my seat, calm and unmoved. The mansion stays, I said. As for the apartment complex, no evictions, but rent adjustments will reflect market standards. Victoria looked mortified. Charles looked calculating. His tone softened. Perhaps, we should work together going forward. I'm open to that, I replied. But only if we return to the values Grandma built this on, stewardship, not status. The room stayed quiet as they processed the new reality. For the first time, they saw me. Truly saw me. And they knew, they couldn't unsee it. The days that followed felt like a quiet storm had passed through the Whitmore legacy. In its wake, everything looked the same, but nothing truly was. The immediate aftermath in the drawing room was a blur of awkward silence, reshuffling alliances, and sideways glances. Uncle Charles invited me to lunch the next day at his exclusive club, one I'd never been welcome in before. "I underestimated you," he said over white linens and imported sparkling water. "Perhaps we've all been too focused on appearances." I sipped my tea and replied carefully. "Grandma would say we've confused the substance of wealth with its symbols." He nodded, almost reverently. "Elizabeth always had perspective. I see now that she passed that on to you." But even his compliments came with terms, proposals to combine forces, to leverage joint assets. He still didn't get it. Still didn't see that I wasn't chasing his throne. I'd built something better. On my terms. Aunt Lillian suddenly discovered an interest in my philanthropic ideas. She invited me to tea at her country estate and spoke in soft tones about the importance of unity. But the cracks showed. Her compliments were rehearsed. Her smile never reached her eyes. Brad took the longest to reach out. When he finally did, it was a business pitch, some luxury condo project needing fresh vision. I declined. Gently. Firmly. "If you ever want to discuss something rooted in value," I said, "I'm happy to talk. But I don't fund trophies." Not every response was self-serving. Jessica remained by my side, grounded and real. Over coffee she joked, "It's like watching a wildlife documentary, Whitmore elites adapting to a new alpha." We laughed, not just out of amusement, but relief. For once, someone in that room had seen me all along. I began choosing who to keep close and who to keep civil. Forgiveness, I learned, didn't mean access. Those who offered real reflection got second chances. Those who merely changed tactics got polite distance. The mansion, once nearly gutted for steel and glass, became the headquarters of the Elizabeth Whitmore Foundation. Our mission? Affordable housing and financial education. Built not to flash wealth, but to quietly change lives. The irony? My family now attends gala dinners in a building they once voted to demolish. They sip champagne in rooms preserved by wealth they never knew I had. I still live in my modest apartment. Still drive my old Corolla. Not because I have to, because I choose to. Because I love the freedom of not performing. And now, when Victoria raises an eyebrow or Brad fumbles for a compliment, they all understand this isn't limitation. This is power. 6 months later, at a foundation event, Martha found me in the rose garden. She took my hand in hers, eyes misted with feeling. "Your grandmother visits me sometimes in dreams," she whispered. "Last night," she said, "she understood what the others forgot. That wealth is a tool, not a crown." My throat tightened. I could have crumbled right there. "She said you didn't inherit just the name, Claire. You inherited the soul of it." That moment mattered more than any chart, any reveal, any victory. It wasn't the millions that changed me. It was knowing I'd built it from meaning. Brick by brick. Choice by choice. And with every property deed, every ledger, every anonymous LLC, I wasn't just building wealth. I was building freedom. Healing didn't come all at once. Family wounds run deep. Sometimes a joke from Brad or a backhanded comment from Lillian still stung. But I didn't carry the same ache. Because I no longer needed to be seen. I had seen myself. The greatest lesson? Success without integrity is hollow. Wealth without purpose is a burden. And family without respect is not family, it's performance. Today, I sit beneath Grandma's roses, now protected by the foundation, and I feel something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. Because the real legacy lives on, not in marble countertops or gated communities, but in lives uplifted. In dreams protected. In the quiet dignity of choosing who you are when no one claps for you. And so I ask you, have you ever been underestimated? Ever been told you were too little, too late, too quiet to matter? Maybe you're still building in the shadows. Maybe they don't see you yet. That's okay. Let them underestimate you. Let them write you off. Just keep building. Because sometimes, the greatest revenge is becoming everything they said you never could. And never needing to say a word when you finally rise.